Hello, this is Reverend Rick McCain. I'm here with my baby, my girl, my boo, author Brenda McCain, and we're the guest hosts of Everyone Has a Story.
That's right. We are here today to educate and inform. Our topic, domestic violence, and we have a great panel of guests to teach you a lot of things about domestic violence and the signs that adheres to domestic violence.
Hey, one of the things that I figured out or I found out about is that there's over 4 million people who have been subject to domestic violence, women's domestic violence. Terry, I want to ask you this question. What is domestic violence?
Domestic violence is a pattern of abuse for power and control in the context of a relationship. In Illinois, we define relationships in 3 ways. The first way is a romantic relationship or intimate partner relationship. The second one is the family relationship, and the third one would be if you stay in a household for more than 24 hours.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting. You know, one of the things also about domestic violence I'm going to ask Jodine about is that a lot of times people don't realize that you want to stop me when I'm talking. But people don't realize, we didn't get a chance to introduce our guest. I am so sorry. Baby, help me out. That's why you have a helpmate. So, baby, help me out with introducing our guest.
Okay, before we get into it, I would like to introduce this great panel we have tonight, starting off with the lovely Ms. Kellly Porter-Turner. She is a certified transformational coach, abuse recovery coach, author, and speaker. Now, these are snippets of what our dynamic team has to offer us today. The next we have the lovely Miss Jodine Basterdash. She is a survivor of domestic violence. She's an author and a motivational speaker and advocate for domestic violence. I have to say Mr. Terry Baines. He is a facilitator for PAIP. And what is that? That is Partner Abuser Intervention Program at South Suburban Family Shelter. We would like to welcome you, and Rick, you can ask that question one more time to Mr. Terry.
Hey, that's why you have a helpmate, because they help you out with certain things that you need to do. So I'm going to go to Jodine here. I'm going to ask you this question about domestic violence. Why is it that in some cases we seem to kind of get familiar with domestic violence because you see it so much? Is it something that we should just dismiss, or is it something that we need to really look at and say it's something we need to resolve today?
It's definitely something that we need to resolve. For so long, we've lived under the taboo of what goes on in our household stays in our household.
Yes.
It's become the norm. So when we're not being properly educated, it becomes too familiar. And so we need to start breaking that cycle, start breaking those chains, and start educating in any way that we can, so that we can start lowering the statistics.
Amen.
Okay, she's right. Jodine is completely right about education. So, Miss Kelley, what are some of the signs of domestic abuse?
Well, just to, as Terry said, the definition being domestic violence, I want to add this first. A lot of people think it's just physical. The physical abuse. Domestic violence involves emotional abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse. It involves more than just an actual punch. But some of the signs prior to that punch, which will not be the first, the punch will not be the first sign. There are the red flags, the controlling, the degrading, the negative talk, a little push, a little shove. Before the actual physical violence sets in, there's going to be a lot of emotional control, verbal abuse, mental abuse, whether it's controlling your money, stopping you from wearing this, stopping you from going there. There's going to be a lot of psychological control going on prior to that first hit. And I think for women, those signs are very visible. We just have to be willing to see them and understand that you're not going to change this person. The only person you could change is you. And when you start to see those signs, it's time to go.
But why is it that someone always believes that their love for that person could actually change an individual? You said it won't change an individual. But we believe we have the power to change. All I've got to do is stay the course. Why do we have that mentality in our mind?
I was in a domestic violence relationship, and I'm going to tell you, I don't consider myself a victim. I am a creator. And the reason I say that is because I saw all of those signs prior to the first hit, and that's exactly what I thought. my love is going to change him. But you see, if the person isn't willing to change himself, there's nothing that I could do for him. There's no amount of love I can provide him with that's going to change him unless he himself understands first that he has an issue that needs to be dealt with. And until he gets to that point, he's going to continue his cycle of abuse. So it took me to say, hey, you need to change yourself and get out of this situation. And ultimately, that's what I did. I had to look inside of me. Why are you accepting this? Why is it okay to be smacked upside the head? Why is it okay to be bit? You know, you leave, you come back, you leave, you come back. Why are you doing this to yourself? He was who he was before he presented himself to me. So I had to look inside of me and say, no more. I'm going to learn to love me. I'm going to increase my self-esteem, get some confidence about myself, and sit with myself. So I don't see victims. I see creators.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I love that.
Yeah, and Jodine, when we say that, you know, we could change an individual, is it something that when you do that, and I'm going to ask Terry this question too, that you're enabling them by thinking that I can change that individual, but that person believes that this abuse is okay because you're constantly letting it happen? Is it something that we need to do is mentally in our heads to realize that by allowing that love to think we can change the person, we're actually enabling them to do what they're doing against us?
Oh, absolutely, because we're making them think that it's okay, and as long as you stand there and let them think that it's okay and allow it to happen, it's going to keep on. You know, there has to come a point where you say enough is enough, you know, and you bring a stop, because as long as you allow it to happen, it's not going to end. Yeah. Because it's like you're telling the abuser, hey, you can say, you know, if you hit me again, I'm going to leave. But if you don't leave, he's going to keep doing it. You know, and it's not that we want the relationship to end. We want the abuse to end.
That's good. Very good. Yeah, that's very good.
What, any one of you guys could jump in and answer this question. I feel kind of odd for me saying a woman's question to you, Terry, but you're here and you're an expert on it. What are the ages that domestic abuse actually start with women, young girls and women?
Well, there's a statistics out that say that women that's 20 to 24 at the most risk. And from my experience in dealing with the perpetrators of abuse, it's about that age. But we can even go back further, especially when it's dealing with men and young boys, because men are always taught to hide their feelings and to suppress what it is that they actually feel. So as they grow up, when they come into contact with a feeling that they're not aware of or haven't defined, then how do most of the guys handle that feeling or that emotion? They usually, because they can't define it or they haven't taken the time to define it, they lash out.
And Terry, you know, another thing is that, you know, with men, if we see the abuse, you see the pattern of abuse, we kind of carry it out because we've seen it in our families as well. As a man, talk to a man right now about abuse and why he should not continue that pattern.
Well, I tell most of the young men that come into a group with me, I always give them this scenario. I say it's a young child in a closet with the door closed. You come in the house and you start doing what it is that you do. What do you think that child is doing? What do you think that child is feeling? And then I always might ask one of the individuals to go in the closet and just pretend that that's your parent going at it. What do you think that you're feeling? Define what it is that you're feeling at that exact moment. Give it a name. And then try to respond like you're supposed to with an alternative. Because it's all about giving another individual a choice, making sure that they realize that choice is available and being accountable for that choice. It's not trying to change them, it's challenging them to come out their own norm, out that pattern.
I thank you very much for that. Hey, we're here on the Everyone Has a Story. I'm your host, Reverend Rick McCain, along with my baby, my girl, my boo. We'll be right back after these station breaks. Welcome back to Everyone Has a Story. I'm your host, Reverend Rick McCain, with my baby, my girl, my boo. Hey, speaking of my boo, you've got a question for him, don't you, baby?
I do. And in case you missed the first segment, we are talking about domestic violence. And right now, the question I'm going to propose to Ms. Jodine is, are there mental health issues when women are abused?
Oh, yes, because some of the effects of domestic violence is trauma and PTSD. it leaves, but it's always in the back of your head. Sometimes there can be certain scenarios that will occur that will remind you. Sometimes, it doesn't affect individuals. Kind of depends on where that person is on their, within their journey of healing per se. But there's definitely the trauma, the PTSD that needs to be dealt with. And then as far as when you think of the health side of it, I mean, hospitals and doctors are making billions of dollars. I can't remember if it's 64 or 6.4 billion. I know they're making a lot of money a year as it pertains to DV.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put a scenario to you all right now. I'm going to start with you, Kelley. I'm a domestic violence female, and I'm going through the process right now, and I need someone to help me. Talk to me to help me how I can go through this process to find a way to get out of this cycle.
Well, I would probably first tell a female, I would never say anything negative. That's the first thing I would not do. I would not say, leave him, or speak that negative talk, because that tends to push a woman closer to him. So I will probably offer her solutions. Hey, if you need me, this is my phone number. Call me. I'll come get you as soon as you need me to come and get you. If you want to have this safe spot that I could take you to, I would be that comfort person for her, because to rag on or to criticize or to judge someone in their position, you're going to keep them right there. So you have to create a positive atmosphere that they know they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be frowned upon, they're not going to be looked down upon, and that when they come into this space, even knowing that the situation that they're in can be very dangerous for their lives, knowing this, I'm going to still provide something safe for you. I'm here for you. We're not going to concern with what's going on at home, but I'm going to make sure you are okay when you come here. And if you want resources, let's look into those resources right now. You got to always have that positive atmosphere for them to come into.
Yeah.
That's interesting, Kelley. Like I said, I love this show because it is informative and we educate. I never would have thought that if you know someone has been abused, domestically abused, that you wouldn't tell them to leave that person. But it's such a delicate situation. Now I understand that better, why you wouldn't do that. So you're creating a safe haven for the individual. I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm learning too. And as far as the next question, Terry, I want to give that to you. When it comes to domestic violence, do women readily report it, or they go through the cycle of just being abused over and over? What is the push for them to say, enough is enough, I need to report this?
Well, there's studies out there that says that it takes a woman average of 7 times in that relationship before she actually leaves the relationship. And I'm just like going through the process of telling her, just like she said, telling a woman all about safety, making sure that this person has available resources available. She has a phone number, she has clothes, she has emergency shelter, she has all of the things that she actually needs when it's her time to get up out of that relationship. Because in 7 times, there's a whole lot of variables that goes along with that. Who knows? Children, resources, how he might have isolated this individual, and there's a whole lot of other things. So.
But you were saying that it's 7 times and they go through the process, and this individual doesn't have the resources. If I don't have the resources, I'm more willing to stay because I don't have the capability of leaving. Jodine, what do you say to that person that they want to leave, but they don't have the resources to leave? How can I get out of this, knowing that if I leave, I have nothing to go to?
Well, what a lot of women don't know is that these domestic violence agencies have the resources that can help them, even if it means relocating to, another city and state. Just getting connected with an advocate or an agency so that they can analyze their situation, create that safety plan, and find out what are the resources that they need and get them connected. Yeah. Get the ball rolling per se.
Okay, but I don't know if that person's going to listen to me. I'm afraid. I'm scared. Where do I go to first even look for someone to even help me? I don't even know where to go. Where do I go?
Well,
talk to me.
We have at South Suburban Family Shelter, we have emergency shelter, we have legal help, we have medical help, we have counseling for victims and children, and it's all about being consistent. As long as the person that's willing to help or advocate for the victims of domestic violence is consistent in offering help and not blaming the victim, 9 times out of 10 that victim will eventually soften and take the help that's needed. It's just being consistent and not blaming the victim, but just being there for them emotionally and mentally.
Yes.
You know, you have to be there. You have to get out of self and allow the emotional and the empathetic side of an individual to touch another individual.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have something?
Like you led with, most women don't know the resources that are out there, and usually from stats that show that most women that's been domestically abused, they end up homeless. And I was just wondering, is that true? If they don't know about the shelters and the resources and the advocacy programs out there, is it true that they end up homeless, Kelley, on the street?
There are some women who end up homeless on the street. The statistic-wise, I'm not sure of, but yes, I have spoken to many women who have gotten out of domestic violence situations and they are homeless. But for companies that Terry is speaking of, these shelters actually offer a place for women like that to come and stay. So yes, it does happen. The number I couldn't tell you, but yes, because this has been their resource. This man has isolated them. He's provided for them. He's taken care of them. He's made sure they have nothing. This is his control. So when it's time for her to leave, or she feels she has the courage to walk away, she might just wind up homeless, and she just has to start over.
This reminds me of a wise lady I was speaking to right before the show by the name of Kelley. We was talking about a situation that no matter what a man gives or provides for a person, when a woman's fed up and ready to make that move, she could be the richest woman living a very nice life, from the car, the house, the clothes, but if she's been mentally and physically abused, she's willing to give it up and take that risk on being homeless just for her sanity. And I think my message for this show is for the ladies to just, I'm not saying wake up, but just to know that we're out here for you and to help you, that there's all kinds of resources out there. Like you said, there's no judgment placed on anyone. It's just, if you're tired of it, give up what you think is your comfort zone and create, as you say, you create what, Kelley?
We are creators, absolutely. We are creators,
there you go.
Yes. You know, I just want to add to that, one of the things I do tell my clients, whether it's a victim of child molestation or domestic violence, is when you do get to that point where you're tired and you're really sick and tired and you walk, that is that point where you actually begin to see you as a person. Because prior to that, accepting the punches, the kicks, stomps, and all this violence, you don't see yourself as human, as worthy. And so the moment you say, I'm done, that is the moment you begin to look at, hey, I am a person. I no longer deserve this. And from that moment forward, for the women, you have to maintain that mentality. I am a woman. I am worthy. You don't leave the situation and go into another one. Because what happens is when you blame, I can't believe he did this to me, I can't believe he stabbed me, you're focusing on what he did. You have to focus on why you accepted this type of behavior. And the only way to really move forward and never find yourself in another situation like that is to look internally. I am worthy, I am loved. And when you start to develop that type of mentality, that is where your freedom begins.
Well, let me ask this question. Jodine, I'm going to come to you with this. What has happened to the woman or to the individual who has lost so much self-esteem that they allow themselves to get in this position? To me, as an individual, I can't see it. So help me as an individual see it, because there's a lot of people out there saying, that's silly, that's stupid, why would she do this?
Right.
What's the pattern that happens to get someone in that position where it seems like they've lost enough self-esteem, like Kelley said, that they don't even feel human?
Well, I'm going to speak to that from two different angles, because for myself, I did not grow up in a home of domestic violence. I never saw, even heard the terminology of domestic violence, but I did grow up fatherless. And domestic violence started for me at the age of 16 years old. And when it started, because I wanted my father in my life, I confused the power and the control with love, with protection. So when I had to check in with him, I thought it was cute, you know, like a father's love, you know. And it escalated from there. My children grew up in a home of domestic violence. So it has become the norm for them to think that this is what love is, because they saw their mom accepting it and they saw their father abusing their mother. So I have worked hard since I have been out of the domestic violence to teach them that that wasn't normal. You know, I have to re-educate, I have to reframe their mindset. So oftentimes people who do become involved in domestic violence as a victim, whether it's a male or a female, they grew up in a home seeing domestic violence, so they thought that's what love is, you know, and it's not.
And I'm going to stop you right there because we're going to go to a commercial break. Kelly, we're going to, Jodine, we're going to come right back to that. Hey, this is Everyone Has a Story. We'll be right back with this informative show. We've been talking about domestic violence, and we left off with Jodine speaking about a situation of helplessness. So, Jodine, continue with that comment you were making.
I was saying that, you know, with children who grow up in a home witnessing domestic violence, you're teaching them that this is love. Even though when I was going through it, I would always tell my girls, never let a man hit you, and tell my son, never hit a woman. But I had to really step back when I got to that stage where I was ready to leave for the final time and say, you know, I've been telling my children this, but what are we showing as examples? You know, because no matter what you say, we're showing something different. So, you know, it can be twofold. It can be whether someone's growing up seeing it and this is what they're taught, that this is acceptable, or it can be where, as I mentioned, you know, I was looking for that fatherly love. I fell into that bracket. I had a very hard time with my self-esteem because he basically, you know, they're very manipulative. They break you down, and because you love them so much, and sometimes, you know, women idolize them, you know, they believe what they say, you know, they convince them that, you know, no one's going to want you, you know, with 2, 3, 4 children. You know, I mean, they'll say a series of things to, you know, get you to stay. And unfortunately, you believe it. Because if it's someone that you love that is telling you these things, and if you don't have anyone else in your ear speaking positive and counteracting that, then you're in this battle and you believe it. Because what they do is isolate you. So they get you away from family and friends who can possibly speak positive to you, who can possibly get you out of that situation. But if they have you alone, that's a perfect opportunity for them to really beat you down, and you believe it and you stay in it. And it happens so smooth, you don't even realize it's happening.
Well, let me ask this question to you all, and I'll let my baby go with another question. We're talking about family. How does this, Terry, we want to talk about how it affects the family, the children in the family, the other spouse, other siblings in the family. How does that affect them when they see or they notice or experience that someone is going through domestic violence?
Most children, just like Jodine said, the depression, the trauma, they go back to school and you can see it you could tell it in their grades and how they acting in school. But it's also another point that I want to point out, and that is that most men grow up, because this is a male-dominated society, and most men come up thinking that just because they're in a relationship, that their spouse is their possession. You know, so. And one of the things that I always try to point out is that just because you are married or you are with this individual, that's not your possession. And there's always some children that's involved, always. That's why I always point out that part about the closet, because that's significant. When I usually use that, a lot of individuals, they get the message.
And if I may add to that really quick, because out of my 4 children who grew up seeing it, 3 of my daughters, 2 out of 3 of my daughters have been victims to domestic violence.
And that's that repetitive cycle.
Absolutely.
They're saying something you said, they consider that to be love.
Yes.
It's a normal part of a society, and it's something that we definitely need to change.
Yeah, and you know, just for me growing up, see, I grew up in it, where stabs in the house, not outside the house, guns being fired off as a child, 8 years old. I literally grew up watching it. So for me, it was my norm. But what's really interesting is when I was watching, as a teenager, watching my sister literally just beat beyond your imagination and stab and things like that. Watching that, I always said, I'll never allow a man to touch me. And what it did for me is I withdrew from aggression, that type of violence. Like today, it literally bothers my stomach to see violence, but I still found myself in 2 situations like that because it was what was taught. It was what I knew. Didn't know love, you know. So it really took me to say, go sit with yourself, honey. That's not love.
Well, are women more likely to be killed by their spouse, boyfriend, or whatever if they experience domestic violence?
Some have, and if they continue to stay, yes, that is definitely a possibility. That's a possibility. A young lady I was working with, she was with a gentleman she has a child by him, with him 2 years prior to them having a baby, and we would always talk. And the last time he touched her, he stabbed her, broke her ribs, I think knocked a tooth out of her mouth, broke a finger, but he was beating her prior to that. And I think the reason he's not in her life now is because he's in prison. He's in prison. But he had been doing it for so long that she become accustomed to it. And that one time was when the family was able to get involved, and they found her. And so that's how he was stopped. He was put in prison.
All right, we've got to go into commercial break in a few seconds, but I'm thankful that you all are on this show because it's teaching us so much information about it, and we need to talk about this a little bit further. You have to know that domestic violence is something that is serious and needs to be taken care of and resolved immediately. If you see someone that's in a domestic violence situation, call an agency so you can let somebody know that someone is in danger, because once you know, you are committing a domestic violence abuse as well by not doing anything. This is the Everyone Has a Story show. We'll be right back after these station breaks.
Yes, very good.
Hi, welcome back. We're about to conclude the show. We're talking about domestic violence, and I'm going to go to each guest, and they're going to give a minute about helping you to remove yourself from a domestic violence situation. Jodine.
Well, not really knowing where the individual is at as far as being ready to leave, because as he mentioned earlier, it takes 7 times before they actually do. What I often like to say is that I will walk that journey with you, because we can say you're worthy, you're lovable, et cetera, but if they're not there, it's kind of hard. But what is very important is to know that they don't have to do it alone.
And I agree, you don't have to do it alone. At South Suburban Family Shelter, we offer emergency shelter, we offer counseling for the victim and their children, we offer legal help, and we offer medical help. If you need to get in contact, the number is 708-794-2094.
Give that information one more time.
708-794-2094.
And that's South
Suburban Family Shelter.
Kelley?
Well, if you really want to get out, as Jodine said, Kelley's Coaching and Consulting is that company that you want to come to take that journey with. But having resources like Terry and Adore to Empower with Jodine, we, as a collaboration, can assist all of the women out there and some of the men who are being abused. We can come together and help you. So reach out to one of us. You can reach me at my number, 773-419-3070. And if I do not have what you need, then I'm going to refer you to the necessary steps to help you get out of that unhealthy situation.
Well, hey, we hope you enjoyed Everyone Has a Story and talking about domestic violence. I've been your host, Reverend Rick McCain, along with my baby, my girl, my boo, Author Brenda McCain. I want to leave you with this message. Don't feel that you're hopeless. You still have hope. Place your hope in God first, and then you can make it out of a situation that seems to be hopelessness. There's hope for you. You've heard it from 3 people here today that they have an opportunity to help you. Reach out. Don't stay in a bad situation like this that long so you can find some help. Contact these individuals or contact this show, the Let's Stay Together show, and we'll help you get out of a domestic violence situation. I've been your host, Reverend Rick McCain, along again with my baby, my girl, my boo. This has been Everyone Has a Story. We'll see you real soon. Thank you.